There we go. Boom. All right. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my
We made
gosh.
it.
Technology is a butthole, I'll tell you. But here we are. My
Yeah.
name is Rob from Rob's School of Music, and we are with the legendary Mr. Bruce Kulick here, hanging with us one more time. Thank you so much for being here. This is obviously
Thanks,
an
Rob.
incredible, dude. It's incredible. You know, I'm like a schoolgirl here, so thank you.
Oh, stop it. Actually, we're both humbled by technology because all of a sudden the browser I usually use for this platform failed on me. And then I finally figure out a workaround, use my phone, which is iOS, and that's different than the other browser. And then the next thing I know, you can't log in. So,
Yeah, there we go. Technology wins.
Okay. Yeah. Well, let's
So,
just hope our people waited for us there. Okay.
yeah.
My apologies, though. But I was here. It's all.
Yeah.
It's all the. That's why they have all those shows about the machines taking over, right, and killing all the humans. I know I've
Seriously.
seen too many shows that's the theme, and I go like, "Oh my God, how could they be so evil?" Now I know. Now
Definitely.
I know.
Yeah, they are evil has occurred today. But we are here and we are excited and we're going to talk all kinds of cool stuff. So my first thing I always like to ask is we are a music school. We, used to do over 120 lessons a week in person, and we were rocking. And then COVID came and we moved everything online. And thankfully, due to a lot of ingenuity, we've done over 3,000 lessons in the past 6 months, which is insane to me. Thank you. Yeah, it keeps me up at night in the best way. But one of the most important things that I'm always trying to convey to the students when we could perform, a lot of them are younger in their career, maybe not always age-wise, but just beginners. And stage fright is a huge, huge, huge hurdle. You've obviously played on the biggest stages possible. Do you have any tips for overcoming that sort of stuff?
I mean, I do want everyone to know that many performers suffer from anxiety about performing in front of people. As cocky as some performers seem, sometimes that's just they may be drinking or doing other things to make them seem so cool. And I'm not saying some performers aren't just completely comfortable with that and they live for that, like the little kid that always wanted everyone's attention. So now that they're getting it, they don't seem to be nervous about it. I was never that way. I was always nervous in front of a microphone if I had to speak in front of people when I was young in school. And it translated that kind of a shy disposition on stage. But I have a funny story that has nothing to do with rock and roll, but it really did help me. A lot of my fans already know that I love listening to music like Frank Sinatra and some of the great American standard vocalists. Tony Bennett was one that Paul Stanley was a big fan of and a friend of. And during the Kiss years, he got to introduce me to Tony Bennett at a gig that he did in L.A. when Paul and I went. But I read his book. Okay, there was a paperback. This is back when you weren't watching your movies on the plane so much with your phone or iPad. You could actually want to read a book. Okay. Anyway, so I was reading Tony Bennett's biography, and in the book he mentions talking about stage fright. Now this guy's still alive, God bless him, and what a voice, right? And he's done every gig in the world. And apparently he asked Frank Sinatra because Frank kind of was one of his supporters early on to help him, and he asked Frank, I get really nervous before I go on stage. I don't know the quote exactly, but he basically shared that it's really hard for him. And Frank was like, that shows you care. You should be nervous. And actually the crowd will accept that. Be yourself, be with it. The fact that you're really uncomfortable, but you'll see that the crowd will kind of respond to you and you're going to get over it, So this was even before I was so into Frank Sinatra so much. And then I met Tony Bennett years later on a plane. And I got to, reintroduce myself. And I told him about the book. He was quite flattered. Anybody who writes a book, they want to know you read it,
Right.
But it was really anytime I get nervous, and that's from the small venue to the giant stage to the interview. It doesn't really matter. Okay. There is a part of anxiety that I'll go through. But I do recognize understanding that part of it. And if that's coming from, what I consider one of the greatest singers of all time, the fact that he's aware and he's nervous too, but he knew that it's normal, and to carry on. So for my first Kiss gig, I talked about it not long ago. My knees were literally shaking before we went on stage. I got through it. I got through 12 years of that and many, many more gigs, as we all know. You accept it, and that helps you deal with it. And last thing I wanted to mention was some of my hardest gigs, oddly enough, is when I know like this people I really know or another musician that I respect in the crowd. That gets me really nervous. It's kind of weird. I don't know why. I guess I know that they're going to know my emotions, or they're going to know when I didn't quite hit the note the way I want to hit the note, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist. So, but live, everything is forgiven so much more. You know that.
Yes.
It's live. Just like this interview. It's just organic. It's going to happen.
That's right. It is a moment in time. And then there's another moment and another moment and another moment. So, along the lines of those performances, has anything ever epically gone so wrong? And then how did you overcome that in that moment?
Well, I remember I like to archive a lot of my Kiss stuff, and I have a good friend, Michael, who helps me with that. And I'll find tapes that I took the board tape because I wanted to listen to it later in the hotel or the next day traveling. And not that long ago, I discovered a tape. The band sounded pretty cool. I mean, as good as the cassette, the hall room, whatever the sound guy captured, right? And all of a sudden in the middle, I Still Love You is one of the really great, great, great ballads from Kiss. Very powerful. And I have a very emotional solo that I do. And in the middle of the solo, I break a string. Okay. Now, on a regular guitar, regular meaning one with stop bridge, okay, if you break a string, the other string should be relatively in tune, okay? If you break a string on a Floyd Rose that doesn't have a block, meaning it's a floating thing, now it's like, so every string is nowhere near being in tune. And I mean, you're playing Chinese, okay? So I hit the note, it goes out of tune. I realize, oh my God. And I just find some other note to find that might, in other words, I had to abandon the solo. I didn't stop. And obviously as soon as that section was done, I got another guitar from the roadie. But I remember that was like an epic fail, you know what I mean? But I still tried to hang on to, well, I'll just make this note work, I guess, and it's not even a note where it should be because of the way the strings are now on the guitar, because of the springs on a Floyd Rose and the fulcrum. You get what I mean? Yeah. But you always have to kind of be on your toes, and keep your eyes open, keep your ears open. And obviously, like anything live, like what we're doing right now, anything can happen. So, you just have to do your best and think ahead. Many times I'm better than my road crew guy about what pedal just failed or what cable might have died. Or sometimes you're playing so loud or there's some overtone that the speaker cable comes out. Nothing's wrong in front of you. It's behind you. How would you know that? You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, oh yeah, let's plug that in, tape it down. So really, it's really incredible how many, when you get through a gig and everything's fine, I'm always like so grateful because so many things can go wrong. And that's why I've always told people, I've done articles for magazines before about when you go to the studio or when you go to gig, how to be prepared. But it doesn't mean that Murphy's Law is not going to, hit you over the head with a bat, and there you are, just like me logging in before this interview and all of a sudden the browser changed, updated this, got to get a code, got to do this. There's no time for that, So you got to think on your toes. And you said to me, use your phone. And I did. So here we are.
Awesome.
You got to outthink it. And there's always another way around a bad situation. That just usually is. And you have to be calm enough to put that together.
Very well said. It's, I think that's something when you haven't performed much, it's one of the most frightening things of, well, what if this, what if that? And that, of course, compounds the anxiety. But,
but the pros have the anxiety too. So it doesn't matter if it's your first gig or your 1 millionth gig, anything can happen up there,
100%. 100%. Gear wise, back in the Kiss days, you were using the ESP guitars. What kind of amps? Was it Marshall?
Mostly Marshalls. I mean, I started out with some of the Kiss heads that were modified Marshalls. And then while I was in Kiss, Marshall and good people that I knew there realized, well, we should offer some more master volume, gain thing. You know what I mean? And they came up with the 900 series, which I really liked. And those were mostly the amps. And, my guitars were ESPs. On occasion, I played a Gibson or a BC Rich, but for the most part, early on, I started with Charvel. That was before my relationship with ESP started, because those had the Floyd Rose. They were powerful, kind of, modern, sexy looking and everything. So cool stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you, I think I mentioned the last time we spoke, like I'm born in the early 80s. So like the Kiss I knew was your Kiss. And when I first started playing guitar, a buddy who was super into ESP guitars, and I remember flipping through the catalog. I'm like, who's this guy? This is cool. This is cool. Right. So that was like my first connecting the dots through the guitar catalog. Hey, that's the guy in the band. Oh, you can do that,
I mean, I was with them so early, 86. Now, the company was around before that, making quality parts. And then, of course, in Japan, they had their own, empire, shall I say. But they were just selling parts in America, so they were kind of small. But by the time I got involved, I remember, I believe it was the 86 NAMM show. The brochure was just a little folding paper, like that. And I was on the cover, like kind of like a cool silhouette Asylum photo, because I was using their M1 series, which is very much that one pickup, super strat. Okay. And they just evolved. They kick ass. Earlier, I was looking on YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. I do want to, let everybody know. And I put a lot of that content that I do up there. So I just was poking around, seeing like, what did this Guitar of the Month do? What did that, discussion about MTV do? So I'm looking at the numbers, and all of a sudden, because it was part of my channel, the ESP thing I did featuring one of their new guitars this year, actually. It was a great guitar too, because it was very similar to the ones I used when I started playing ESP live with Kiss. And that would have had like 30,000, views. And I was like, wow. And then I forget, ESP is a really huge company now. Yeah. They're not a company that needs a little brochure like that. Now they're just world renowned and a very big company. And of course, very different from a Gibson or a Fender. But I still have that relationship with them, which is great. And I do want all your musical people out there who play instruments to know that absolutely good gear, quality gear, like a guy, the plumber coming over with the good tools, you know what I mean? But if he doesn't know what he's doing, it doesn't really matter that he's got the ultimate wrench to help the pipe that's not working. You gotta have your talent. You gotta understand what works where, in the right place, and that's how to play the instrument, how to, find the right amp for the right guitar. It's so much more of it is about the talent and your ability on the instrument and your ears, and less about the gear. So you're not going to sound like Slash if you own the Slash Les Paul. And there's probably nothing wrong with a Slash Les Paul. I'm just trying to say, unless you know how to play, don't get too hung up on those names, attached to.
Completely. I mean, when I first started playing guitar, my dad's a drummer. He's my biggest musical fan. Had my back forever. Within playing guitar for 6 months, he got me a JCM 900 half stack and a Gibson Les Paul. And I didn't touch either one of them for a year because the sounds that were coming out of it, because I was so crappy as a guitarist, I was sticking to my Ibanez whatever just because I was afraid to, but that's very true.
As soon as big amps came out, if you weren't good on the guitar and your performance, especially the amps that didn't have the the master channel thing to be distorted low, with a low volume. Oh my God. I mean, that guitar will just explode in your hands. Everything's going to be magnified tenfold, 100-fold. So that's what you were experiencing.
Yes.
And I mean, it's like I've told many people from lessons I've given, you got to walk before you run. So you got to learn how to control it. And then it becomes a beautiful thing. Then that volume and the power of that amp actually, and maybe even playing off that, and I know you'll understand what I mean, the feedback loop of the pickups into it becomes now not only your amplifier, it becomes another instrument in the chain. And that's where using pedals, when I've done the rock and roll fantasy camp, you just, all of a sudden you meet like 6 to 8 people that are going to be your band. And obviously I'm going to go through and work with them, their strengths, their weaknesses, and make us a cohesive group. Right. But as soon as I see these guys come in with these pedal boards and they plug into the amp, I kind of can, maybe dial in the studio amp that we're rehearsing in, but then they want to use every pedal. And I'm like, yeah, you can put that back in your, back in the car, take it back to the hotel. You're not playing through any of that, because it was like bringing, the massive toolkit when you need one Phillips screwdriver. Okay.
Yeah.
It just drives me crazy, and sure enough, I make it work for them. They may not understand why. And they may think that like having is the more is better,
Yeah.
But it's not to say that some guys can't really make magic with all that, there's no doubt. But unless you can prove that with a couple of chords or a couple of riffs, see it. It's not about the pedals and everything. It's about you knowing how to use it all.
100% agree. I tell you, when I go to a store, when you could do that to test out a guitar, I always play it through, like a $150 practice amp.
Yes.
Just whatever I'm not going to go play the amp I have at home, because if it sounds good on this smaller amp, it's going to work.
I've turned a lot of people onto these little guys. I love
great company.
Well,
yeah.
what's really cool, and Black Star does make good, powerful amps that are very Marshall-like, which isn't bad, of course. Why not imitate the best, right? But like, check out like when you, first of all, it's got delay. Okay? So you always want to be a little bit. Right, you can hear that. And that could give you a clean sound without all that delay. And this is like a $60 amp, I think. And that's kind of cool, Why not? I think there's a cleaner, hang on, here's the cleaner sound, for the stuff like that. So I really love it.
That's great.
Really a beautiful guitar. McCarty, I've liked these because these are like kind of like everyone that knows guitars, McCarty worked for Gibson, and then PRS hired him because Gibson never really knew how to take care of a lot of the people. Les Paul would fight with them all the time too. And McCarty came up with a humbucker, right? I think he developed part of the humbucking thing, or lots of things with technology to make the golden age of Gibson magic. And then Paul Reed Smith, being a brilliant guy, he reached out, asked him, and I love these McCartys. And this has that kind of Michigan maple top, like a flame maple that's kind of wide. Always loved them. I've recorded quite a bit, and I have not a lot of PRSs, but quite a few. And it's a completely different animal from a ESP, but really wonderful guitar. So you see that's my sound, that's my hand. I'm playing through a little thing. But the magical thing about these little guys is that the distortion's natural, and to have delay on a little amp is really great. They those little Marshalls are great. The MS2s, they sound great. You stick them on you crank it up and put a pillow near it, you know what I mean? And that kind of muffles it and makes it more real. Yeah. But it doesn't have any delay on it, and these, big supporter of those. I can't tell you how many lessons I've given. Like, don't get a big amp. Can you, I really, this little $60 practice amp's amazing. So that's what made me think of it. I don't have a endorsement with Black Star. I'm just mentioning it.
Nah, it's great stuff, and it's beautiful. You say PRS. I've had a relationship with PRS since 2006, 2007. Yep. My number one is a McCarty.
Oh yeah, look at you. All right, there you go. Oh, and you got the birds of there's a special name for those inlays.
Yeah, and this one has the rosewood neck too.
So and the rosewood, right. Yeah. I had one of those, and then I wound up trading. Ironically, you showed me that. Paul Reed Smith was kind enough to hook me up with a Brazilian, one of those Brazilian neck guys. Or I think it was Brazil, whatever. It was the rosewood, Yeah. And I loved it, but it was a little heavy. Then Norm had this one in his store, Norm's Rare Guitar.
Yeah.
Okay? And this is a regular 2000, not a 10 top.
Yeah, but
Paul
those are
hooked me up with a 10 top, okay, with that beautiful neck. And then I just I played this in Norm's store, and it wasn't price crazy because the value is really good on those. But I do know models like what you have are more valuable. And I wound up doing a deal with Norm. I think it was a straight swap. He kind of grumbled a little bit, but I know he got a lot more money than what he was asking, you know, for the one that Paul gave me for this one. And of course that was the right thing to do, because then obviously I'm still using a Paul Reed Smith, and here we are talking about a Paul Reed Smith, you know. But like, it's great with Grand Funk. I'll come out with like one of the killer ESPs that I have, a Black Viper. Then I'll switch to actually I usually play a McCarty for the next song or two. Then I'll switch back to, you know, an ESP. Then I'm, you know, like an Eclipse model. And then I wind up back on a I'll play a Gibson Les Paul for a few songs, but they have to be chambered because I can't play a 9-pound Les Paul.
It's just insane. Yeah.
I'm too fragile. Okay. You heard it, everyone. No, I broke a collarbone in '88. No way. Anyway. And then I'll go to a Strat, go back to that Viper, you know, and I have so much fun. Oh, those were the days, Rob. Those were the days. When all the guitars are with the back line from my gear, three rigs. It's so crazy. I tell you, what a year. What a year.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. I just want to real fast. That's me playing same exact McCarty that you had with the dot inlays. Sadly,
these are great guitars. But again, you know, it's all about, I remember the last like guitar show I was at, I saw one and I didn't need to buy one, you know, but I told the guy, I said like, and I remember mentioning it to Lisa, I said like, this guitar is going to sell. It's priced right. These are great. And by the time we did the walk around, went back to the booth, you know, it was sold, you know, of course. And the same thing with the ESPs. If you put an ESP out at a show, good chance I'm going home with it. You know, and it's the right ones, you know.
Oh, you know, especially like the 90s, the 80s, and early 90s ones, those are like, you can't get your hands on them. And like, they pop up in reverb and they're gone.
But the newer line, and I've been working with them. I ordered more multi-swirls again because they were so popular. That was the limited edition looking replica of my, those, you know, aren't in stores. I only offer them because they're not interested in making a bigger run and offering it that way, which is fine for me. My fans are going to know they're getting it directly from me, and I take care of it. I put a lot of case candy in it, like it's a Fender custom shop or something, you know.
Awesome.
You know, mini guitar or photo pick pack and, you know, COA, the whole thing. But I was just blown away when they finally came out with these models, and they call it the 1987, talk about 80s. And they're doing really well with it, because when I did the reorder, I was asking the president that I'm very tight with for a long time now, Matt, I said, how's things? And even in the pandemic and everything, people are loving gear. They love to play. They're still supporting the music stuff. And I hope it stays that way, obviously. And that's really exciting to know, you know, but more people are at home. Maybe the vacations are less. They're not going out to concerts because they don't exist really. So gear is getting a lot of love. God bless it. You know, maybe we'll get better players on the other side of this nonsense. You know?
I'll tell you, I mean, you know, being a music school, like I was scared to death because we had to shut down. And we've seen this beautiful insurgence. I don't know if that's the right word. Resurgent. There it is. Yeah. I make up one word every interview. I'll make up a word. So yeah, there's my one.
I'll do more than you. Don't worry. I promise.
And we see all these people like reaching out. Like we used to just teach mostly within our community, and now I'm teaching people literally global. So it's been really, really cool.
Yes.
Music is we're gonna come out of this thing very musical, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it. I've had to have a major adjustment. I mean, the majority of my income has always been traveling for gigs. You know, for example, very soon the Kiss Cruise would have happened, and that's a big gig that I gear up for. And everything's postponed. Not sure when the Grand Funk gigs are going to restart. You know, we're kind of hoping maybe next spring. And it's not a band or a circuit that I think we're going to try to do anything too soon. I know certain places, you know. And I'm not going to get into all. My head will explode if I try to describe how hard it is to even wrap your head around something that was so normal. Everybody would gig, everybody would play, everybody would have a meet and greet. You know, so everything's upside down. So I have to admit, though, I've had to relearn things, you know, and offer, you know, do more things like what I'm doing with you, and I teach online. You know, there's a great app called Meet Hook that they're able to book me. There's the cameos. You know, there's. Various obviously I got a little more aggressive with merchandise on my site, and it's given me time to be more in touch with my fans on social media. So I've done much more editing of videos, and when I share something now, it's a freaking production. It gets me crazy.
Yeah.
You notice I look very nice in here. That's because I got a professional light on, another one over there. I got my little lights behind me,
That's great.
I would, if this wasn't a pandemic year, I don't know if I would have had even time to figure out any of that. You know what I mean? But I've had a lot of people help, show me things, and I learned how to edit things, and my wife as well. And she's been busy with her artwork. So it's learning new things, and in a way, and here you go, you have an opportunity now to bring your school beyond your that lovely area of New York that you're in, and take it to everywhere, and that's the silver lining, I guess, of a really crazy thing.
100%, man. We got to find the opportunity in the adversity, right?
Yeah.
But you look fantastic. The lighting, everything, it's so strange. Every week I get a new microphone, a new light, a new this, a new exactly. That, and it makes a difference. And it's funny looking back, at everyone, because we're all learning this on the fly. Yes. There's very few musicians from the zero to the top of the top that had to do this by themselves.
Right.
So I think it's very exciting where now newer musicians are like, oh well, I can go on Amazon and order $1,000 worth of gear, and I got a full production studio. I'm in business. It's really exciting.
Learning how to do it is a scene, though, and fortunately, it's great to reach out to people that that understand a little more. Thankfully, a neighbor loaned me, because he couldn't use it during the pandemic, some lights, and and they're not your normal. I would never even know they exist. I got to be honest, nothing. And then, of course, all right, then what the hell do I do with them? You know what I mean? And the next thing I know, I'm speaking to there's a really good engineer buddy of mine, Jimmy, who he's the one that recorded me for the Ace record, and I knew he was into film and stuff because he did a movie. And then I reached out to him. I said, I don't know what I'm doing, really. Can you help? And he just sent me a huge PDF file, Hollywood lighting or something. So I started to take a look at that, and I've been able to adapt a few things that I learned from that. And here I am doing better production. I realized I needed a better camera, so I got the actually now I have iPhone envy because the iPhone 12 is coming out, but I have the 11 Pro, which has that really great camera and everything. Hence, I think why I'm looking good here with you. And it's stereo recording, which is nice when I do a couple of those things that I share where the amp is there and my backing track's here, and you can kind of hear it in stereo. So we have to just learn.
Yeah. It's funny you bring up the Ace record. That was one of the things I wanted to discuss. So, how did that come to be? I've been seeing he's been saying such beautiful things about you, which is
really
cool. I
have to admit, I always knew that Ace liked me, and would say kind things about me. Not that I think he commented too much on Kiss and everything. His relationship with them is very different than it would be for me. I was just one of those lucky guys who stepped in, and what I think he's reflected on, which has been wonderful, of course, is the fact that I was able to take signature riffs of his, but then make it my own. So I think he appreciated that. Now, clearly, Gene and Paul do want Tommy to be the spaceman, which means to play more like Ace. And Tommy always knew that stuff better than me. So it was part of his job description, if you get what I mean. And I don't fault him for it. I think he does it great. And I'm good friends with Tommy. But what happened with the record was he's been with a label that I'm very good friends with, actually one of the label guys, because this guy, Ken Gulick, helped me with BK3, my solo record that came out 10 years ago. So I knew about Origins, and actually Ace and I worked together, although I didn't, it was an ESP record called Eric Singer Project, where we had the guy who was involved with that label, Keith, says, I know I can get Ace on this. Let's get him, and Ace actually played on Foxy Lady, ironically enough. And I helped comp his solo and put it together. He just came in, did a great job, and then we kind of put it together, and that was the end of it. But that was an independent label thing. It wasn't as big as what he's been doing with E1, But Ken works at that label. Origins 1 had Paul Stanley, which was really cool for them. And I was kind of a little like, hey, what about me? I knew that Ace says good things about me. So I remember it went around in circles where I told Ken I would do it, let Ace know. Ace heard that I was interested in doing it. and why not? And I just knew it was going to be a real treat for the fans, and I didn't expect necessarily the press would be, of course, also not only about, that it actually, and some people like Origins 2 better than 1. And the label certainly knows how to promote it. So you're going to see it in every variation, every color vinyl in the history of vinyl. You know what I mean? But I'm just really happy to be a part of it. And no, I didn't see him. He said about coming to Vegas. He thought I lived in LA and he was spending more time doing things in LA. So I said, well, I can get it done for you. And I knew other artists that were appearing that were just doing it in their studios. So it didn't have to be done. And it's ironic, at the time I was using this guy Jimmy a lot for any sessions that I was, brought in to do, because I wasn't set up in my home to record big amps and everything. And Jimmy, I didn't realize what a big Kiss fan he was, so it was a real honor for him to get involved, of course. But literally, that was like done a year before I think he was supposed to put it out in the fall of last year. Then they waited for spring, and we all know what happened in the spring. Right. So hence it came out this fall in a sense. So, I did it over a year and a half ago, which is really crazy. Yeah. And, but it doesn't really matter, that way. But it's just kind of cool. And once again, it was a Hendrix song, which is great. And then in the end, he's getting a lot of press anyway. People wanted to talk to him. And now, of course, he's been saying kind things about me and the world of Ace. I mean, when it comes to an interview with Ace Frehley, oh my God, you don't know what's going to happen,
It's a trip.
When something like, he should know, he'll forget the word, Eddie's Trunk is great with him. And we did an interview on the cruise. We were together on the Kiss Cruise 8, and it was really a lot of fun. And I remember Keith, the guy who works for Kiss that I mentioned, who did that album years ago, actually, for ESP. He was the one that helped us with the interview, and Ace's guy, Pat. And I remember there'd be times that Ace would be like, and when, he would be referencing maybe Jimi Hendrix or wanting to say Eric Singer, but couldn't get it out of it, so it was great. I had such fun with it. And because there's only one Ace Frehley, what can I say, and I see him now as like the Godfather, I've seen him at his meet and greets. He sits there at the table. He's got the big suit on, rock and roll suit, look, not the Gene Simmons business suit, and everybody loves him. And he's like, hey, and then he's signing and his autographs are big, he's just a trip, and what can I say? I mean, I think it's a really cool thing that I got to be on the track and to have the, me represented. And of course, his fans are really rabid about him. And many of them, of course, are supporters of the non-makeup. But the ones that aren't, they got some exposure with me. And other great players on the record, from, John Five to Robin, what's his name from Cheap Trick?
Xander.
Robin Xander singing, yeah. These are all people that I know Ken knows very well, too, the label guy. So it was very easy. And it's really all good. It was all for rock and roll.
I tell you, well, first of all, back to things going wrong. My webcam froze in the middle of your story there. Yep. But I quickly went to the not the fancy camera. Now I'm on the crappy camera. But we got to pivot, kids. Yep. Just as a fan of Kiss through all the things, like I said, I came onto the band with your era of Kiss. So then when they put the makeup back on, I was like, oh, there's this other thing. Oh, that's them too. So now seeing these instances where, like on the Kiss cruise, where like you're up there with Tommy and Ace, and it's like, oh my God, everything is happening at once. That's, as a fan, so incredibly cool.
Sure.
And there's so much footage of that on YouTube. I was totally binging on it this morning.
Right. The Kiss cruises have really become very exciting, and I did want everybody to know they're planning on doing something at the end of the month, like when the cruise would have happened, and I'm part of a Q&A. I just was telling my wife Lisa about it. Just keep everybody engaged, because it really is, the Kiss fans are a fantastic community. It's very hard to explain. I mean, I've been to Beatle conventions, and I know what it is to be a fan of an artist. But the Kiss fans are really special. They're very rabid about it, and then they really become they create like a big fan networking thing. That's been, I've been friends. As much as I'm the guy that was in the band, but I'm friends with quite a few of them. You know what I mean? And it's fascinating to see their love and passion. And I learn from them too, though, because I understand what they think is really cool. And sometimes I get ideas about like, oh, wow, yeah, I guess I could always make that kind of a t-shirt. That would be fun. I think people would like that, So it's a good relationship. But certainly those cruises are amazing. And the Kiss fans are thriving in the pandemic with online auctions, and they just go wild everywhere. And that's why I have it's a lot for me to sometimes, I know whatever I got to prep for them, I want it to be like a home run, and really share, something special with them. So I'm going much deeper with the, just like those cruise gigs, I went deeper with the catalog, and on my videos now during COVID, I'm going bigger with the stories and trying to unearth everything that I can share.
I think it's incredible. I think it's so generous that you put that out there, because we just want to learn. Like, the situation that you've been in and the music you've been a part of, it's so special to so many people. So to be able to have such access where you're pulling stuff out of your closet and
Yes.
doing the songs with your wife, and then doing the songs, you did the tune with Chris Jericho, and then all the other like remote cover things you've been doing. That's really, really special. So
I mean, besides
thanks.
new things, and thank you, Rob, but I do like celebrating, my career. And I lately I just kicked myself. The things that I'm like always surprised about is how I don't think I really understood after they went back in makeup and really exploded again, with stadium shows and stuff, that my era, there would always be a love and here's your word again, the resurgence of, those albums and their experiences. And now, as the time calendar goes by, right, there's the anniversaries of late last year was Animalize, and then becomes, Asylum. And then eventually, I like the big number, the 30s and the 25s and the 35s and the 40s. But these anniversaries just keep revolving and evolving. And now I'm understanding much more, and I'm trying to archive it so I do have better things to share in a better way. And it's actually, as much as it's work for me, it is fascinating as well. And I forget, and I love when I never saw that photo before. Oh my God, I wore that day, and I forgot about that guitar. Those kind of things. So it's been really, really a fun thing for me as well.
Awesome. It's something that I try and encourage every person that I work with here through the school is document everything. I just had an instance a couple weeks ago. I did a reunion of my high school band. We were a high school band. We were nothing significant by any means, but to me, that was the catalyst that led me to a career in music. I wouldn't have toured had I not played with those guys in the beginning. Sure. I wouldn't have my PRS relationship. I wouldn't have the school. So that was the seed. And in that process, we were digging through all the tapes and the pictures and things on such a smaller scale. And people now who are starting to play, in their pocket, they carry a device to document everything. Yeah. And I think people love to see the process. So you showing this stuff along the way, that's beautiful. People now in real time can be, throwing stuff on Instagram and TikTok and whatever the newest thing will be.
Yep. No, and I do. I know that we were at a disadvantage. Like, I'm very fortunate. Like, I went to the BC Rich factory in '83, even pre-Kiss. I had some of their guitars, and I remember taking pictures, and there's a guy putting out, this guy, Matt in Louisiana, is going to put out this mother of all books on BC Rich. Oh my God. Cool. And of course I wanted to contribute to that. And he reached out to Joe Perry and the guy from Aerosmith, really, and it's amazing, that I was lucky that I did carry a camera, but now what they can do is ridiculous. Of course, we all know this. And the other reason why I wanted to kind of show the big circle of that, though, is so those same young fans, who they grew up with technology in their pocket, basically a computer in their pocket, they get turned on to a big Kiss show because Kiss is still relevant and still out there, doing an amazing job with these huge productions and everything. And then they're like, oh wow, they didn't wear makeup, and wear on that same crazy device that they'll take a picture of their breakfast and their, whatever they're going to do, their crazy TikTok silly video. Now they can go look in the palm of their hand at my era and go watch
Right.
Unplugged and go see some video of my first gigs, or listen to it, or visit my site, or, you know. So
Yeah.
the technology thing works in all those ways. And obviously, people are getting to know that music shouldn't be for free, but we all enjoy streaming in different ways. But great thing about Kiss fans is they love physical product too. They
Yeah.
like to hold something, you know, and there is a renaissance of vinyl. That's why I know that I'll be releasing more things related to things I've done on
Good.
vinyl. Late
Good.
November, by the way, or maybe even a little sooner, there's going to be an Eric Carr Rockology picture disc that's going to come out that I was
Awesome.
involved with getting put together. And I think the guy that just did that doesn't know yet, but I'll tell you guys, I'd love to do a picture disc of BK3 because I love that record. And I'd love to eventually do vinyl for both of my other solo records that never came out in vinyl, Audio Dog and Transformer. And even if they're limited runs, you know, I just think fans love that stuff. And I'm proud of the music, you know, so why not?
Yeah. 100%. Do that. Get the Union records on vinyl too. Just go all the way.
Okay. Union Records. Yes. Unfortunately, it's still connected to the label. So those kind of things make my head explode.
Oh, sorry.
So I turn it on to a guy who works with labels, and he's talking to them, and we'll figure that out. I would love that. And that guy knows that. The label knows it. Dun, 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 dun. You get the point. I love the things that I can control, that I own, I created. I don't have to be calling up other people to make it happen. Okay. But that doesn't negate my desire to see it a reality. So I'm with you. And I knew you'd go there, but I need to put that caveat out there to everybody. I'm working on it, but there's only so much I could do when, you know, and let me tie this into something important. Now that, you know, I've been celebrating all my years, and the fans celebrated with me. They love it. They can't, but, you know, I love hearing like, oh, that Hot in the Shade concert, you know, that gig, or that tour that started. And when you came here, and Donington, I shared the mug that I had from '88. Okay. You know, online, and it blew up both on my wife's social media and mine, because it was her idea. So, but I still piggyback it and share it. And I asked, so how many of you remember the gig? And all these people from England that went there, or Europe that went, they all remember. And it's amazing to relive that. But, you know, there are many products from Kiss. Where's MTV Unplugged video? Go buy it. You'll buy a bootleg somewhere. Mm-hmm. There's nothing official out there. Yeah. Where's, you know, you try to look for, where's the Crazy Nights video? Why isn't it, you know, just, and I could be wrong about that, but I know when I do my research, I look around and I go like, huh? Yeah. Where's the video? You know, I know I'm Unplugged. You can't buy it. It's out, you know. So I'm very, very, even a big band like Kiss, the fact that they made record deals and different side deals, and each product is done differently, potentially, not the albums. You know, the catalog is always going to be available. It has to be. You know, because you're always you make that deal and you make it work. But so many of the other things that I would love, like the Animalized Live, and that had an anniversary, Unplugged, that had an anniversary. I'm like, what the hell? But I also know the music business is very complicated. So just because you did that and it was a hit and Viacom loves it, that was like one of the MTV companies or something. Yeah, why wouldn't someone get that? The Kiss fans would eat that up.
Yeah. I tell you, I think I'd mentioned that my son, I took him his first concert ever. It was a Kiss show a couple years ago, and he just fell in love 100%.
Yep.
Tears Are Falling is his favorite song of all time. They put out these VHS like anthologies, or DVD anthologies. I'm sorry. DVDs, and that one had the Kiss Unplugged in it, but they're long out of print on Amazon. They're crazy expensive.
Yes.
I feel very lucky.
And actually, that guy Ken Gulick that I mentioned earlier, involved with Ace, he's the one that the label, I think he was at Universal or something like that then, and he was the one that was in charge of getting Kissology 1, 2, and 3. And I boldly have the gold records up here. Let me see. Can you see gold records over there? See the big Kiss?
Yeah. That's awesome.
Okay. Yeah. And so you know, I don't know, but that I want to complain about Union. They can't even put out their own stuff that they could make fans happy and everybody gets some money. But I know that they do put out things. But whenever you see those products come out that are official, it was easy. Okay. If it was easy, it happens. And I think when there's too many weird contracts, which you don't even know why they happen, it go. Now, it doesn't mean that people won't bootleg it or watch it on YouTube or someone's going to post it, and it's there.
It's nice to own it.
Absolutely.
All right, my friend, I'm going to do my closing thing now because I actually have to teach a guitar lesson at 7 o'clock, so I have to wind down this conversation.
Okay.
So this is my new ending. I do rapid fire questions. So I'm going to ask you this or that.
Keep it short. Okay.
Yeah, it's just, no, you can dive in if you want to defend your answer.
I've been diving into so many other things.
I love it. I love it. That is
I'd rather have more questions. Okay.
But I love stories like this. You could tell one story for an hour and I'd sit there and go, more, please. So it's all good.
I don't shut up. I know. Evening with Bruce Kulick. Here we are.
I love it. It's all good. I love it.
My wife can hear me from downstairs. And she's giggling right now. I know it. While she's blinging her art, she's like laughing at me. I know it.
So it's music related stuff, nothing crazy, heavy, political or anything funky, just gear sort of stuff. So humbucker or single coil?
Got to go with the humbucker.
Okay. Fender or Gibson?
I got to go with Gibson only because I own more of them, but there's no way I'm going to not say that I love Fenders and I own some really cool, but mostly custom shop Fenders, not originals where I have quite a few vintage Gibson instruments.
Okay. Fair enough. Let's see. So then this one is kind of answered in that question, but Les Paul or Strat?
Les Paul.
Right. Okay.
Although, to do the magic during those Floyd Rose Kiss years when that was important, I had to have what I like to refer to as a super Strat, like what Eddie Van Halen created. Mm-hmm. So I got to say, if you're going to say, does it I own a guitar? I'm going to say, okay, my old Les Paul, but can I take the Banana ESP M1 too? You know what I mean? Because then I got everything covered. The Les Paul's got all the two pickups, the bell tone, the woman tone, the Clapton, bite, and I used it a lot on a lot of Kiss things. And then the Banana is just going to go woo 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 wah, dive bomb away, and Crazy Nights, and here we go, and I'm happy on my island. And I could never do that on Les Paul. And just to tie that in on a funny way to Tommy Thayer, we've talked about they'll do Crazy Nights, and he's not going to play a guitar with a Floyd Rose. He's just not going to. It's like doesn't fit the character of the spaceman, So he's got to do what he can, and I'm like giggling about it, but anyway.
That was one of the encores at the last time I saw him in Philly back in February. And I was excited because I'd never heard that song live. Yeah. But I was like, wait a second, this can't be done. And I'm like waiting to see how he's going to do it. And
even I've done gigs where I didn't have the Floyd guitar and I had to kind of imitate it. It's not easy. It's not, having your arm dropping is the method. Okay.
Right.
I've taught it many times online.
All right. So acoustic guitars, Martin or Taylor?
Martin.
Okay.
And actually, I should answer that I love a lot of Gibsons. Okay.
Okay. Fair enough.
And Paul used to have some fantastic guilds. Taylors are excellent. I've never warmed up to them. Okay, to be honest, and that's why. And my Martins will fight you, but the tone out of those things. But every guitar is different anyway. Okay.
Yep. Okay. Some effect-related questions: delay or reverb?
I have to have both sometimes, but I'm more a delay guy, but not a big delay. Okay.
Yep. Fuzz or overdrive? Like a fuzz face or like a tube screamer?
No fuzz, overdrive.
Okay, good.
Now, the reason why fuzz worked back in the Hendrix days and made it famous, even though it's a gimmick pedal and you can get some great effects out of it, those amps didn't distort as much. So we added that in. And in fact, Mark Farner, who of course I'm doing his signature riffs on these 20 years with Grand Funk, he used to use like a fuzz pedal because he liked a clean sound. Okay.
Right.
So to me, overdrive, just you step on that. Now that crunchy rhythm that you had now takes off to the next level. And the B channel on a 900 series, all you need is an SD1 and you're good to go. Okay.
Boom. Awesome. Right answer. Phaser or chorus?
I love phasers, but I got to say chorus. And I'm monkey. I have too many of them.
Okay.
Though I have some amazing phasers in the house too, vintage ones.
I'd say phaser is like my addiction. I have more phaser pedals than I can count. I'm looking over at the shelf.
We'll have to play phaser challenge.
Okay? Yeah. All right, we'll do two more. So the Beatles or the Stones?
Beatles. No comparison for me. Okay. Now, doesn't mean I don't love the Stones, and rock and roll wouldn't be sleazy without the Stones, and they were the bad boys of rock and roll and all that. But man, the Beatles were way ahead of the game, and I saw the Stones follow them. Her Majesty's, that record, the Satanic, whatever.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
No, I love that record. It's actually kind of panned a lot, but it's just the point that the Beatles, whether or not they knew it or not, but they changed the world. Okay.
Yep.
They just changed the world. And Kiss wouldn't exist with four guys, with four identifiable, just like the Ringo, John, Paul, and George, and Paul Stanley's name's Paul more because of a Paul McCartney, and you get what I mean. And
Yep.
Gene certainly is not going to be Chaim, Vitz, and anyway, and Ace. Good thing he had Ace because his real name's Paul. You get the idea.
Well, my son had his bris. We had to give him his Hebrew name, and I gave him that name and had to explain to everyone why I was choosing that name. No one really put it together, but I was very proud.
It's actually mine as well, actually.
There we go. So even cooler.
Part related to my great grandmother, that's what you do. But anyway, he's a much more famous one of the tribe. Okay.
Oh, that makes it even cooler. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, my friend, those are my questions. That's my thing. Thank you so much for this. Sorry for the technical hiccups.
Hey, I'm glad we both had them. Okay,
yeah.
So I don't feel so bad. But hopefully, I think we packed in a lot of groovy stuff for everybody.
100%.
And this lives on the internet now on the YouTube thing, right?
Yep, I'll send you the link when it gets all processed, and then you can do whatever you like. But thank you so much. Stay safe.
You're welcome.
I look forward to an opportunity where.
All right, Rob. Thanks again.
We'll all right, brother. Be well. Bye.
Bye-bye.